Hello, everyone, and welcome to another of What Are We Thinking with Booming Encore. My name is Susan Williams, and I'm the founder of Booming Encore, and I'm delighted to welcome back Jeff Weiss. Jeff is the president and CEO of Asia Majority. Welcome back, Jeff. Great to see you.
Suzanne, I hope you're enjoying the summer and thrilled to be back with you to talk about a few interesting areas again.
Yeah, they certainly are interesting, Jeff, and I'm really anxious to dive in. So let's start the first thing. Everybody's been, cocooning and this whole COVID situation, and we're all raring to get out. And you did a little bit of research around what people plan to do. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about what you discovered?
Sure, yeah. So we tackled a few areas. And the first one was around entertainment, because as you said, people have been cooped up. And although they've been doing things online, there's this real anxiousness to get out and do things. So we asked people kind of from an entertainment point of view, what their comfort level was in certain types of entertainment activities and venues. And there were a couple surprising. So firstly, the three top areas where people are most comfortable in terms of going back to, so to speak. Outdoor dining, almost 80% said, yeah, we're in for that. Outdoor markets, 74%. And then third was actually indoor dining. I was a little surprised because people are somewhat hesitant still to be inside and close to each other. But that was the third kind of activity people are definitely into and looking forward to do it. And in those three areas, the outdoor dining, markets, and indoor dining, the majority have already returned to doing that or plan on doing so within the next month or two. So it is happening, and people are anxious to get out. And then we asked people, we asked them other activities and things that they were less comfortable with. And the three of them were indoor concerts was number one. Not that surprising, because you tend to get a lot of people close together, depending on the type of concert you might be up, lots of activity happening. So almost half of our active agers, so they're not totally comfortable with indoor concerts yet. Movie theaters was next, about just over 40% are still a little hesitant. And I know movie theaters are opening up quicker in some places than others, so still some hesitancy there. And then going to bars and sporting events actually were kind of number 3 and 4, and about a third of active agers not really comfortable with that. And then in terms of vaccinations and comfort level, over half of active agers think vaccinations should be required for entry into entertainment venues. So it's, this kind of, we want to get out and do things, but there's still this, uneasiness about being in places that people aren't vaccinated. And, we're not going to get into the reasons, nor do I want to get into the reasons of why people think that, politics or what else. But yeah, over half of active agers aren't that comfortable unless people are vaccinated before going to these events.
Well, it's interesting because it's surprising, but not surprising in the sense that we've started and stopped this stuff so many times, but the areas that people look like they're willing to go back to are the ones that we've probably already tested out. For instance, restaurants, I can actually see possibly going indoors because a lot of them have had to put up, some safety measures. So, whether it's plexiglass between or spacing out the tables, that sort of thing. So it probably feels, at least when you're inside, a little more comfortable than, like you said, some of the sporting events or concerts, where you're sitting on top of each other, or even in a bar. Unfortunately, sometimes alcohol, if you're consuming alcohol, it can kind of take down your safety precautions. So, it's understandable, and I can see that it'll be interesting to see how long it takes before we get back to what, we called our old normal, which was now our new normal, and how long this is actually going to take to play out. So hopefully this time it'll hold, and we'll be able to slowly start to introduce, going back to movies. I'm looking forward to going back to a movie at some point. I kind of miss the big screen. Yeah. So.
And just an aside, and I'm seeing this personally because I'm in Massachusetts and the state is fairly wide open, but hugging has come back into play big time. And, I've got a family of huggers, but, people, we see people we haven't really had any connection with for, over a year. And people who I never would have considered hugging in the past are looking for a hug now, right? And other people.
Yeah, I think we're all sort of hug deprived,
Yes. Everyone's comfort level is different, but sometimes it's a little weird. Anyway.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. Okay, next topic up was a cashless payments, and how do we actually, approach that? Are we embracing it? Are we avoiding it? It is definitely a different world out there when it comes to paying for things. So what have you found?
So we asked our Revolution 55 community kind of what payment methods they were using, both both mobile and other, and how often they were using them. So number one option being used is in store with credit or debit cards.
Mm.
And about 80% are using that form of payment at least weekly. So people are returning to the stores more, and when they're returning, they're using either credit card or debit card. So, that's happening there. And then almost the same amount of people, about 45% or so, are using online credit or debit. So e-commerce, which we know has grown in popularity. Almost half of active agents are using credit or debit to pay for online purchases. And then about half of them are also still using cash, which, I'm personally, I hardly ever use cash. And, I have to go to the bank now once every 2 months or so just for special occasions. But some people, 45% are still using cash. Notable though, is that almost 1/3 of active agers never use a check anymore to make payments, right? Yeah. So they're using online to pay for utility bills, for taxes, all of that stuff. So 1/3 never use checks, and about another third rarely use them at all. So you've only got, maybe 35, 40% of active agers using checks at all.
Well, so I know the banks are making it much more expensive to use checks. Like if you ever went to order checks, I mean, it's getting crazy how much it costs.
I know. So it's crazy. So we're seeing that there's still limited use of other forms of payments, like Venmo isn't being used often, or like the digital wallets, like Apple's digital wallet.
Yeah, I was going to ask Apple Wallet. No.
Yeah, so a lot of people never use that. I think we're going to see that grow in popularity over time, but we're just not seeing a lot of use of that now. And the other thing we asked is kind of why are people using cashless payments? Number one was convenience. Second was ease of use, because it is. And third was discounts and points, right? So when people use particularly credit cards, whether it's a percentage cash back or you're collecting points for something, people are into that. So why use cash when I can collect points or get money back, right? So we're seeing more and more use of that, not surprising.
And a lot of vendors really, especially through the pandemic, they really push the tap and go, so I think that probably also highlighted the fact that, people were moving cashless. They didn't want to, handle the cash. At that point, we didn't know whether it was being transmitted that way or not. So
yeah, exactly. I'll still go to some grocery stores where if you want to use cash, if it's a small purchase, and you put it on like the counter area, they do not want to take it from you. So still some hesitancy there.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting to see how the whole digital wallet thing advances or not as we progress. So some interesting information there. Okay. And then finally, where do people want to live? I mean, have we seen much changes over time as to how people are living or where they want to live? What have you actually discovered on this topic?
No, it's a good question. And we wanted to probe that because things, changed, I think, dramatically. We've been seeing change before the pandemic, and then COVID has changed things. So we asked people kind of, what are their future plans? We didn't give it a specific time frame, but 60% of our revolutionaries said they want to stay put. They want to stay at home, right? The term aging in place, which I don't like, I call it, living in place. There's got to be a better term than aging in place. So 60% of active agers want to stay in their house, and about half of them want to do renovations, whether those are large renovations or smaller, work, about half of them. And that's why the latest numbers I've seen is that over half of consumer spending in kind of the renovation market is by active agers, right? Yet you don't see them portrayed often in marketing or being reached out to in marketing efforts by the big renovation firms, appliance companies, and things like that. So majority of people want to stay at home. 18% want to downsize. And I think that number is down, because I've seen numbers 25 to 30% before people wanted to downsize. So that number's gone down, and then upsizing 7%. And I think that's gone down as well, because you had people who were, they had kids, grandkids, and the place they were living in now is too small to accommodate, right? So only 7%. So I think both downsizing and upsizing has gone down to what it used to be before. I think people staying in place has gone up, and that's where a lot of the move. And then about 15% or so are thinking about moving into a kind of 55 plus type of environment, whether that be a community, or a residence or building that's more for active agers. Only about 3% of those want a place where there's kind of extra care if needed, as you know, for if they've got health issues, whatever, but not that big amount. And then less than 1% want to move in with their family, which actually I was surprised because we were seeing a lot more of that during the pandemic, where, you know, people were just, you know, kids moving back for sure. And, you know, my son who's 25 has moved back with us, but in terms of future plans, there aren't a lot of plans, maybe because it was driven by COVID, I don't know. Not a lot of plans to move in with the family. So some interesting stuff there.
It is. And I think what's ended up happening is through the pandemic, people ended up appreciating their homes more, maybe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then we asked the people who are the 60% or so who are going to stay at their home, what are the biggest concerns or obstacles that they think they might have that might inhibit them from staying at home? The ability to kind of care for themselves or for others, usually a partner, was number one. And number two is that it might be too expensive. But you think about some of the things that we're seeing out there in the business world, you know, firstly, technology, the amount of money being spent on technology, either for health or for making it easier to manage your home, that's just taken off, and there's a lot of money being spent there. So I think, you know, being able to manage your house, I think there's a lot more technology and more stuff coming and able to do that. The ability to manage your health, certain areas of your health for sure, in terms of monitors and things like that. So I think that will ease the pressure on people, you know, having to be forced out of their home. And then different financing models as well when it comes to your home, whether it be, you know, reverse mortgages, whether it be land lease options, which are becoming more affordable. And I was reading some interesting stuff about new models where there are communities, but it's all rental units. So you don't buy in a community where you actually rent, which I thought was pretty interesting. So I think there'll be some different models there that really might encourage people to move. And, you know, university campuses also, which we're starting to see a bit more of, where people are living on campus with younger, you know, adults and students as well. So I think that's kind of interesting to see.
Are you starting to see any sort of increase in maintenance services for homeowners? So that's the only thing that I'm thinking of. Like, for instance, stepping up on a chair right now to fix a light bulb's not an issue, but in, you know, 15 years from now, this might be a big concern, you know?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because in-home or at-home services is taking off. You know, it's already big. They're having a big challenge in getting enough caregivers to come into the home. But you also get into the type of services that can be offered, right? For active agers, it could be as easy as, you know what, I'm tired of cooking all the time. So, you know, meal kits, for example, which are growing. So it's everything from meal kits to replacing light bulbs and doing maintenance, things like that. Opportunities there. But then you get into more traditional in-home care, at-home care services where it's more related to someone's, you know, health and wellness. And again, the technology is really going to come into play and enable people to stay in longer. At-home care companies will be able to offer more of that. And again, people just want to live in their homes as long as possible. And so that whole area is just taking off as well.
So maybe we should develop an industry called smart care housing or something.
Oh, there's huge opportunities. But again, there's a lot of money being spent there, you know, and everything from fall detection. It's like every week I'm getting another call. Hey, I've got a new fall detection device, out there, you know, and all the way through to, everything around smart homes, right? So really interesting space.
Oh, good. Well, some interesting developments, Jeff. Thanks so much for sharing that with us. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. And I look forward to our chat again next month.
Okay, and to everybody out there, hope you found this information interesting and it helps you live your best booming Encore. Bye for now, everyone.